everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on GT Sport. We're back with a daily race C at Interlagos, driving the Group 2 Super GT cars. You can see there I chose to drive the Lexus. I have got a track guide out for this combination if you're interested in that on the channel. Check that out, it's within the track guide section. So for this race, this was my first race on, straight after doing that lap that got me the obviously the 24.01 or something. And I went straight into a race, first race of the day. Obviously always a little bit rusty whenever I go into these first races. Obviously not really got the rhythm. When you're doing the hot lapping part, you don't really build much rhythm up. As you can see there, going straight into turn 1, and a mistake that I've made so many times in multiple classes of car, as I get that right hand tyre onto the grass in the braking and it flicks the rear out. Just about caught that then. But that's put me under pressure now as we go into the major braking zone at the end of this straight. See, I go defensive on the left hand side, P2 goes down the right hand side, I give him the space, but he's not really able to outbrake me there, and I managed to brake fairly late and actually carry a reasonable speed for that corner. You can see I've actually pulled a fair little advantage, around 1.5, 1.2 seconds ahead, and another driver has got into second place. I think that was P4 or P5, has managed to get himself straight up into P2 with a very brave move down the inside there. I didn't actually see the move properly, but it looked like a brave move, and he runs very wide though going into that corner, nearly loses it, just about manages to hold the inside line though, and the other driver tries to go around that outside in the NSX, but there's not really much opportunity of going around that right hand side on that corner. You just end up running out of road without very much grip at all. So we're going to jump on board with P2 now for most of this race, as obviously this is a guy that's going to put me under a bit of pressure. I was probably not driving the best at this stage, obviously first race of the day. I feel like I had a lot more pace, but I was just trying to be consistent really. You're going to see me just doing a lot of fuel saving and not really going maximum attack. When I get into a rhythm on a track, I try to drive it without doing the fuel saving so much when I'm in the lead like this. But you can see they're going into fuel mixer 2 because I wasn't 100% confident at this stage of my first race. Just pretty much just wanting to save some fuel and let him stay, you know, if he try and keep within like one second, around 1 second. But as long as he didn't get into a massive opportunity to overtake, I was reasonably happy. So you can see using that fuel mixer 2 all the way down this straight just to save a little bit more fuel, and obviously doing the short shifting as well. This car obviously benefits from short shifting a fair amount. You know, when you do use this car, it doesn't lose massive speed by short shifting it. But you can see I'm still using that fuel mixer 2 because I had such an advantage off that first lap, so I wasn't really worried about you know, going into one mixture. I wanted to do short shifting in fuel mixture 2. It's fairly okay through this section anyway, fuel mixture 2. It's quite a nice setting because it stops a bit of understeer, and also it helps with traction. I did notice a lot of people were using traction control with this car. I don't like using it, so for me it just helps with a bit of traction coming out of some of the corners in these Super GT cars. As you can see, I'm able to just get the power a little bit with a bit more confidence. So for my first race I tend to do that, you know, use that fuel mixture 2. Gives me a bit more confidence, and then if I would have done some races after this, I probably would have just gone, you know, more of an attacking approach. But obviously first race of the day, it's just about keeping it consistent and making it a little bit easier for yourself by using that mixture 2. You know, it helps as well with your fuel consumption, so it's just benefits really for your first race, you know, that you're going to enter into. It just helps with consistency. But even though I'm doing that, I'm managing to hold, you know, about 1.3 to 1.4 seconds gap at the moment. Using that fuel mixture 2 through these corners can lose you a bit of time. You see there he starts gaining a little bit on me at this stage, so it goes to fuel mixture 1 for the straight, just to give myself a little bit of speed down the straight. But I am obviously doing that short shift as we come into the braking zone, braking just past that 100 board down into third gear, and just trying to be careful not to run too far wide there. You can see I nearly ran a little bit too far, lost a bit of time on the acceleration as you come out of that corner because I couldn't get up the power. I think I went into fuel mixture 2 very briefly as well, just to try and dole that power down a bit, and then go through these really fast right hand corners. You can see I've lost a fair amount through that mistake. He's actually got within the slipstream now. You know, because of that one mistake coming off that exit, it does lose you a lot of time then going off the hill. So just it's hovering around 1 second, the gap between 8/10 and 1 second. But for me this wasn't really a massive issue because I knew if I really had to push, I could probably push a lot harder. But it's just I didn't want to push on my first race of the day, obviously with, you know, not really being that consistent and not really much of a rhythm at all. But managed to get that gap straight over to 1 second again, going off the exit. But again, he's picking up that slipstream now. He managed to get a better exit than myself. I think using traction control actually helps out on some of these corners when you're getting on the power, because it seems like they can really get the power early. I think once you're used to it, obviously I had a few more races, I would be able to be faster without it on. But I did notice a few people in this race was actually using traction control when I went back through the replay. As you can see there, keeping that gap around 1 second. He gains a bit on this corner there, as I just can't really get on the power very easy. I do struggle with these Super GT cars on this track when it comes to getting on the power, so I think it's just a case of needing to practice it more, because I've only ever done 2 races, I think, one in the NSX and one in this. Every time it's on, I only ever get around to doing one race, mainly because of FIA races. I think this was on the day before the FIA race, so it was a case of do this race and then just get straight back onto the FIA practice, although that didn't really do me much good anyway. As you can see, ran a little bit wide there, but just about got away without picking up any sort of penalty. But again, going into that fuel mixture 2, you can see using that and short shifting as well, just trying to make sure that if this guy behind me is doing any sort of fuel saving, I'm able to cover him off in the pits and he's not going to be able to jump me. You know, as long as I've saved more fuel than him in the pits, I'll be pretty comfortable. So I was fairly confident that I've got the pace to hold him off if I wanted to go aggressive, but I just didn't want to be undercutting the pits if he had been doing some massive fuel saving. That's now working our way up the hill to the start finishing line. You can see again that gap staying. It's got it up to about 1.3 seconds. As I've been just trying to like stop him picking up too much of a slipstream. That was the main aim for this first stint. I didn't want to give him too much of a slipstream, so if someone's in the slipstream, obviously they're going to be able to utilise that and save more fuel. So what I was trying to do was not let him get within like half a second of me, 6-7 tenths of me, because that's when he's going to pick up more of a slipstream. So every time he got in the slipstream, I was trying a little bit harder just to break that slipstream and then do my fuel saving again. Basically it was quite tactical. I just didn't want to be pushing too hard on my first race. You can see my lap times are nothing special, they're not really fast at all. I'm just trying to get some consistency and rhythm going. I was tempted to do another race after this, but obviously I chose to do the FIA practice, and like I say, that didn't really go too well, as here from the previous video. But like I say, the good news is I'm really hoping that tomorrow's FIA race, Saturday's FIA race in the Group 3 AMG GT3 car is going to be a lot better. I jumped on very quickly last night for just a very quick 5 minutes practice, and I straight away hit a 31.0, and I was really surprised. And it was constant low 31s. It was really easy to be consistent with. The only issue I'm worried about is just with a bit of front tyre wear. It might create a bit of understeer on some of the corners, but it feels like you can get on the power reasonably easy in that car. So I'm looking forward to that race a lot more than what I was the Group 4 race, and hopefully I can pick up a good result in that, because I feel like I've got the ability to maybe pick up a reasonable scoring round if I can get some luck, and you know, if it all goes well for me. Let's hope it's a clean race and stuff, and we don't get any incidents. Hopefully I can just get the qualifying together. I'm going to jump on later for a bit more practice in that, and hopefully get the lap a bit faster. I feel I can get it to a 30.7 or 30.8, and then I'll try and get that track guide out tomorrow early-ish before obviously the race, to help anyone out that's doing the FIA. As you can see there in this race, again you can see the gap is around 7 tenths, and he's not really getting too close to me. It's all just trying to keep him, you know, enough distance so he couldn't really do much fuel saving. Going through these corners, you can see I'm still using fuel mixture 2 even though he is that close to me, because as soon as I get through to the corners, I felt like if I pushed hard enough I could probably increase that gap back up to nearly a second. As we're coming very close to the pit stop phase now, I did notice as well in this race that some people were pitting at the end of lap 6. Obviously they weren't doing much fuel saving, but I had plenty of fuel. I think over 30% left there, you can see in that bottom right hand corner, so plenty of fuel left, so there was no real need to pit on this lap. But let's have a little look as we go over the line actually who pits on lap 6 and what their fuel level is, just to show you the advantage that doing this kind of like short shifting and fuel mixture 2 through that section can help you out by, you know, considering we're at the front of the race, so we've obviously got reasonable pace. So let's just have a little look as we go past the pit straight, see who pits and what sort of fuel level they're on. We're on about 26-27% at this stage, so it'll be interesting to see who pitted. I'm pretty sure in this race 1 or 2 drivers might have pitted, so I'm going to have a little look on that left hand side now. As you can see, one driver there pits on 9%, so that really does show you he was around 5th place I think as he went in the pits. What kind of an advantage that the fuel saving does. You know, I've got over 14% extra fuel and we've not really lost anything in terms of race pace, so that short shifting in this car is so important, and that really does highlight why I try and drill it into everyone about the short shifting and how you need to do it, because I wasn't aware that he only had that amount of fuel left when he went in the pits, but it was quite a lot of quite a big difference that, as you can see there, coming now to the lap that I'm going to pit, obviously lap 7. I decided to go on lap 7 just so that I shorten the last stint, you know, with a bit fresher tyres, and you know, not having to I didn't want to go lap 6 in case he obviously then does somehow gets a, undercut on me in the pits. I wanted to see what he was fuel level he was running, and that's one thing that you've got to be quite tactical with. Sometimes it's a good idea to go after someone purely because if you've saved a lot of fuel, they won't be aware of it. Whereas if you're going in at the same time, I can check on his fuel level as he goes in the pits, and then if he's saved more than me, I can always just say, well, I'll just risk undercutting it a bit more and then just save a bit more fuel in certain parts of the track. So going into pits, I go in with a little bit more. Actually, I saved about 3-4% more than him, so I was reasonably happy at that stage. I could see that saved reasonable fuel. See another driver saved 1% more than me, but a lot of other drivers hadn't really saved the amount that I had saved. So it does show you that that short shift then using fuel mixture 2 doesn't lose you too much. And you can see I actually went over the diamond because I knew I had a little bit of a percentage more, so I gave myself a little bit more fuel to play with in this last 6 laps or so, in case I needed to use it in any defence, to really rev the car out, just to get that, even if it was just a case of needing to get that extra 1 mile per hour out of the car. If I needed it, it was there. But it does show you that some people going in the pits with just 2% fuel. I think I went in with 13 or 14%, 10% more fuel. It shows you the advantage of just short shifting it about midway or towards 2/3 of the way. You don't lose much in terms of race pace, and also using that fuel mixture 2 through this section. It's not a section where using one mixture is going to gain you massive amounts. Sometimes fuel mixture 2 can actually help you out in terms of your race pace through this section because it's so smooth and it's easier to get on the power. I actually took this corner, you see there, taking it very tight, and I didn't carry much speed because of that, and I think the driver behind actually starts catching up a bit. Yeah, he gained about 2/10 on me there, but he's still about 1.2, 1.3 seconds, 1.4 seconds behind. It just seems to be fluctuating in different parts of the track, and I think it's mainly where the traction control helps him out. It's where it's helping him get on the power a little bit earlier, and that's where he seems to gain. But then coming through to certain corners where the traction control probably hinders you, I tend to gain a little bit on them corners. So it's just a case of different styles and obviously different settings we're using. As you can see there, coming off the final bend, he got a much better traction than myself, and actually he's getting himself very close to the slipstream there. You can see just over a second ahead I am. If he gets another 10th, he's back in my slipstream. So this was actually quite an intense race, to be fair, for my first race back on. I would have rather had an easy race for your first race after doing your qualifying lap. It's nice just to get an easy race, but I was actually getting quite a lot of pressure on myself during this race. He was doing well to keep me under pressure. I was controlling it in a way with the fuel mixture. I ran a little bit wide there. You can see that curb is so dangerous. If you do run wide in these cars, you've got to be very careful that you don't run too far, and it will flick you out, and it can be really dangerous. But it was a case of just controlling the pace a lot of this race, obviously not wanting to push too hard. As you can see, it's always staying around 1 second, and when it does go a little bit lower, I do tend to push a little bit harder and then increase the gap. But the only risk is when you're not in a rhythm on track, when you start pushing, you can make mistakes. So they ran a little bit wide there. You could visually see it on his camera how wide they ran and how much time I lost. I lost about 3-4 tenths by that mistake. The only good thing is then you can kind of get on the power a little bit early. As you can see, then I gain a tenth or so. But then going onto the back straight, let's see how the delta compares here now, as I really tried to get the power early there, but I start pulling away, but now he's going to start picking up my slipstream. You're going to see it, how the delta's coming down. Now he's got that slipstream, and I really didn't want this. This is the point of the race where I wanted to try and be building up the lead to over a second, but he's managed to pick up my slipstream. But I'm going to try and you see I've picked up a penalty as well, obviously from where I've gone. I think I went wide or cut a corner somewhere, and I need to try and get rid of that penalty without him overtaking me. So I didn't want to get rid of that on the line, because at this stage I couldn't tell if he had a penalty or not. I think he actually did have penalties, but I wasn't aware. So going through this corner, trying to push fairly hard and run a little bit wide there, and I actually thought at that stage I was a goner. Somehow really managed, I just flung the car the other way straight away and managed to save that. Some really quick reactions, I have to say. I thought I was a goner. We'll have a little look back at that and see what happened. As you can see there, just trying to keep it calm after that little incident. Didn't want to make any massive errors and just trying to get back into a rhythm, because something like that can proper knock you out your the rhythm you were in. And it did nearly catch me out. As you can see, as I went through the corner, I got that right hand tyre over the curb, and the car actually started to ghost, because I think the game thought I was going to be into the barrier because of the angle that was created when I lost it. But I managed to, I think what helped me out was, as the car, I was about to change gear into fourth, and I pretty much changed gear into fourth. as we hit the curb, as I hit the curb, and that probably helped me out slightly as well as with the quick reactions when I put the opposite lock in. I felt like it was going to happen. It was really one of the things where you kind of know it's going to happen, and I was steering into it straight away, so got away with that and managed to keep the lead and still in a fairly comfortable position. But I needed to try and get myself over a second ahead so that I could get rid of this 6 attempts of a penalty that I picked up somewhere. I think it was from a slight little cut from a corner or running a wide out of a corner. It was probably from running wide out of the corner just up ahead now. It could have also been picked up when I went wide and lost the rear end. I'm not too sure. I didn't actually catch when it happened. As this time again, trying to make sure I go through this corner, and I was really nervous at this stage because of that mistake, and I ran a little bit wide again and nearly lost it again. You can see again, managed to save it. So didn't learn my lesson from the previous lap. It was more nerves really. Once you've done it once, I started to think if I do that again I could be losing it, but just about held on to it and kept that gap at 1.2 seconds, 1.1 seconds. As you can see, that's what I was trying to do, is build up a little bit of a lead, because I wanted to get rid of this penalty before the end of the race and make sure I was ahead of him, because it's a safer way to do it. Obviously, if I can get rid of that penalty and he does get close to me towards the end, but then he's got to get rid of his penalty, then it means that I've got the win anyway. So that was the plan anyway. So you can see, trying to build that lead up. You can see I'm starting to increase it now. Obviously I've probably got a little bit more fuel than him, because I would have put a little bit extra in with the fuel I'd saved. So just trying to push as hard as I can now. Got the gap to around just over a second. You can visually see it on that top screen from his view. I've got a 1.2 second lead, so I've got to try and get rid of this penalty somewhere, but I didn't feel confident doing it this lap. This is where I wanted to do it, going onto this first corner, because it's a braking zone anyway, so if I can do it before that corner, you won't really have to worry about getting back up to speed because you're into a corner. So that's where I wanted to do it. So trying to push reasonably hard on this lap. You can see, trying to build that lead up. You can see it on his screen as well. The gap's increasing now, where I'm putting some better lap times in, revving the car out a little bit more. I've got the fuel to do it. I don't really need to worry about the fuel situation. Ran a little bit wide there, but got away with it. Not as wide as I did on previous laps. And then going through this section again, trying to squeeze a little bit of performance out of the car to build up the gap to at least 1.5, 1.6 seconds, just so that I can then get rid of that penalty. And on the final lap I can just take it easy without having to worry about any issues, because I knew that he had a penalty at this stage. So it was just about trying to make sure I've got rid of the penalty going into the final lap. Trying to get on the power as early as I can coming out of this corner. It is a really tricky corner that if you get on the power too early, you can flick the rear out. Going onto the back straight now, coming onto the corner before the back straight, trying to brake as late as possible and get a good clean exit. I needed to really get on the power earlier and get a nice clean exit, and that's what I managed to do, a reasonable exit there. You can see the gap at 1.4, 1.5 seconds, and I decided I've probably got enough of a gap at this stage, because he seems quite a distance back. So I'm going to try and get rid of that penalty. You can see I've got it down to 4 attempts, got it down a bit more, and got rid of that penalty. Now just going into braking zone. And the only issue with that, sometimes he can catch you out with the braking. You see I've gone in a little bit too deep, where I've not really known what speed I was going. But still, I've got the gap, it's over half a second, and I'm fairly comfortable there now, because I can push, and I've got no penalty to get rid of. And I think he had a penalty at this stage anyway. So 4 attempts ahead, going into this corner. He's not going to be able to make a move on my car. He's not close enough. I feel like I could have got that gap over 2 seconds if I would have just carried on driving to the end, and I would have still won anyway. But I felt like this was a safer way to do it, because if he's got a penalty as well, I've still got the lead and I've got rid of that penalty. Sometimes, with what happened in the FIA race when I came to the finishing line and the penalty wouldn't go, I didn't want another situation like that, because you can just lose the race. And I've seen it happen to other people. It doesn't always happen. It just seems very random when it happens, and the penalty just won't disappear. So I didn't want to risk any of that. I just wanted to get rid of it all, get to the final lap, and just push reasonably hard and try and build that lead back up, which I've managed to do. You can see I'm starting to pull away again. Gained about 3-4 tenths on him since he got to 4 tenths of me, and then I've got plenty of fuel to rev it out on this back straight now. So just pushing really hard, letting the car rev out now and building that lead up, because I didn't want him to pick up a slipstream. But it looks like he's got a penalty, and he's obviously got to do some fuel saving of some sorts anyway, because he's not really gaining on me. And then going over this line, you're going to see he lifts here now, because he's had quite a lot of penalties to take. And we go over the line, and I've won by over 2.5 seconds. So in the end, fairly comfortable. He had a few penalties to take. I had that penalty to take, and it was quite a comfortable race in the end, to be brutally honest. I feel like I was controlling the pace. I feel like I had a lot more pace to give if I needed to give it. but with the first race of the day, I just don't feel confident all the time in pushing too hard. So it was a nice race, it was enjoyable, he pushed me really hard, and it was a really fun race to be in, and hopefully I can have more races like that. I do enjoy races where I'm pushed, you know, to drive as well as I can. You know, for the first race as well, it can be quite, you know, worrying, because you don't want to make mistakes and, you know, end up down in P9 or 10 or something like that and lose a lot of your rating. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. It was a fun race, and we'll be back with more GT Sport content. Hopefully, like I say, tomorrow I'll have the FIA guide out for this track for the Group 3 car. If I can get a race done as well, I will do it. It depends how much practice I can get in for that race as well. I want to make sure that I'm fully prepared for it as much as I can, and obviously I'll get the race uploaded for the FIA on Sunday. So make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already subscribed. Click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. Like I said, I do upload every single day on GT Sport, and I'm going to be uploading more iRacing content as and when I get on that game. Hopefully 1 or 2 uploads every week. So thanks again for watching. I'll be back very soon.